Hello, everyone. Another episode of Media Talks, also being live broadcast at Rojava, Kurdistan. Our guest is Suzan Quitaz. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
So, Suzan, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, with pleasure. So, Suzan, you are a Kurd. You are originally from Rojava, but you were born in Baghdad, but you live in Sweden and Israel. Is that right?
Yes, it's correct. Yes, yeah.
Yes. And you're a professional journalist.
Yes, I've been working as a journalist for almost 15 years. I started my career working for Qatari medias.
Okay.
So, yeah, from Al Araby channel, worked as a producer for Al Jazeera, freelance producer, worked as a writer for the New Arab newspaper. So, yeah,
Okay,
worked.
and you are also writing articles. I read at least one at Jerusalem Post recently.
Yes, I write for Jerusalem Post, but I've been working for Israeli media for like a number of years.
Okay, and
Yes.
in Israel, who are you in contact with? Is it only the Jewish Kurdish community, or is it more broad?
So it's broad. I mean, when I first started going to Israel, I was welcomed by the Iraqi Jewish community. And then a year later, I was introduced to the Jewish community, and I was blown up how much the Israeli people, and I'm talking now about the general public, how much knowledge they have about Kurds and the way they view Kurds. And if you allow me, I mean, I could share with you the first time I arrived to Ben Gurion Airport, and it was about 10 years ago. And the minute I arrived, the border control, he could see that my first name and surname is like, it's not Arabic, but it said Baghdad, born in Baghdad. So he looked at me, and the first thing I said to him with confidence, I said to him, I'm not an Arab, I'm Kurd. And he goes and say, you're from Zaho? And I like, no, not from Zaho. And he was telling me that he started talking about Kurdish female fighters and that he's seen movies and videos about them. And for me, it was a very nice experience because when I was a child, 4 years old, my family was deported from Iraq. Our crime was because we were Kurdish. So you could see the difference between how the Kurds viewed in the Arab world by Arabs and how are they viewed by the Israelis. It
Yeah.
was.
So it's also my experience. Whenever I met a Jewish person in my whole life, and I think the first was, I think I was 14 or 15 in my hometown, Iskenderun. That is like, if there was a highway, it would be 4 hours drive from Jerusalem up north on the Mediterranean coast. Uh, so what did I know about Jews? Nothing, right? Everything I knew was from school, and they were evil. So evil incarnate are the Jews. Everything, the Ten Commandments apply only to Jews. Everything else, they can rape, they can pillage, they can kill, and then the person I met I actually skipped the school, and no, it was after school. I didn't go home, and then this guy. He first checked if I knew English, and then he said, like, "Where are you here?" And I was like, "Okay." He was like, "Why don't you just first go home, say hi to your parents, and then if you want to be on the coast, do that." That was
Yeah.
a fatherly thing to say, right?
Mm.
And then when I heard the guy was a Jewish businessman doing business there, I was like, this guy is not evil.
Yeah. It's
This
shame
was not
because
a Kurdish connection, but this was, oh, the Jews are not evil connection. And then what
yeah,
happens, I met Jews all over the world. Life was generous to me to make me travel all around the world, including in Vancouver, Canada. Jews have a great sympathy for Kurds.
yes, yeah.
They
Well,
feel for us.
yeah, because we have a shared common history of prosecution, of denial, of suffering. I mean, Kurds and Jews in the entire Middle East, we are the only two nations who are not allowed to exist. Like when I look at a country like Qatar, less than 250,000, and they think they have the right to have their own state. But Kurds, 60 million, who cares? Jews, 60 millions, who cares? You know? And it's really sad. It's very sad.
Yeah. So that there are then there are two types of Jews. And when I say two types of Jews, the Jews that live in Israel, the citizens of Israel, not just citizens, but they live in Israel. That's their homeland. And then the Jews that do not live in Israel. And obviously there is a connection, right? When we go to abroad, we are talking about people who are the natives of the countries that they live. And some decide to immigrate to Israel and to live there. We are reading about those. But majority, if they're American, they're American. If they're German, they're German. If they are English, they are English, in the sense that they are the natives of these lands for 2,000 years, for example, right? But this sympathy is shared by both, which is interesting because when you talk about Israel, it's a people that live there and that have a different life, obviously, right? They are in constant war since Israel was established. The others, they are more aware of what's going on with genuine interest or just reading from the news. So you're talking about the Jews in Israel. I know Seth Fransman, for example. He introduced me to write at Jerusalem Post. And during my first interview with him, my computer was attacked. I had to burn that computer and buy a new one, the one that we are talking now. So Seth would also say the same thing. He was like, there's a big sympathy for Kurds, especially he was like the Jewish Kurdish community in Jerusalem, the neighborhood that he lives. It was like, he doesn't see it in the other communities in Israel.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, when I lived in Israel, so I lived for a while like outside Tel Aviv, but then last year I lived in Jerusalem. And I was literally like few minutes away from a Jewish Kurdish neighborhood, Nakhlat Ben Yehuda. And over there, I promise you, like some of the square called Zahu Square, there is a street called the Barazani Street. Then there is the Jewish synagogue for Kurds. And there are so many restaurants. I mean, Kurdish identity and culture is celebrated in Israel. It's celebrated with a proud. And I think one of the reasons, if we go back to the 1950s, with the rise of Arab nationalism, with Turkish fascism, Kurdish community, Jewish Kurdish community, they were attacked in both directions. First, they are Kurdish, and second, they are Jews. And those Kurds who left, especially the one who left Iraqi Kurdistan, they didn't leave it because they were attacked by the Kurdish brother and sister, the Kurdish brother Muslim sisters. They left because they were worried about the rising persecution and anti-Semitism. So when they left Kurdistan, Iraq, they left, but they didn't leave it because it stayed in their heart. And when they moved to Israel in the 1950s, for them it was very important that their identity as Kurd, that it continue being alive. Like I'm sure Yehuda bin Yusuf.
Yes.
Yes, I mean
the president of Jewish Kurdish community in Israel.
Of course, yeah. He comes from a long family who always were very proud of being Kurdish, like his uncle Habib Shlomi. He was extremely involved, and lobbying for Kurdish rights. So when they established the Kurdish Jewish community, they had in mind that the Kurdish identity, the Kurdish culture should be part of the Israeli identity. And this is why, thanks to them, you see a lot of Israeli know what Kurds is, the music, the culture, the food, everything. It's like it's really part of Israel. Like about a year ago, I attended the Sarana party or the Sarana festival, which is a Kurdish party. I promise you, I have never seen any country in the Middle East beside the Kurdish regions, like, in occupied Kurdish region, so many Kurdish flags. Everybody was wearing Kurdish traditional clothes. They were singing in Kurdish, dancing in Kurdish, talking in Kurdish. And the most emotional thing for me was when they ask you where you're from. They don't want you to say, I'm from Iraq or from Iran. These things we are not. They were saying, I'm from Zakho, I'm from Ahmadiyya, where are you from? And I would say, I'm from Ilam originally, but my family was, brought up in Baghdad. It was amazing. It was really amazing feeling to be there, to be among your people. because they are my people. They are your people.
Yeah. Do you know the Vera Said Pur?
What do you mean?
The person Vera Said Pur. I think she was the one that how can we say Nidat Izadi was a protege of Vera Said Pur.
Yes. Yeah.
A Jewish woman. She meets her husband when he comes. I think it was painting her house or something like that. They get married. She falls in love, and then he dies early. And then
Yeah.
she starts working on Kurdish people. And
Yes. Yeah.
she was a great scholar. And in an interview with New York Times, they asked her, like, why, as a Jewish woman, why are you so interested in Kurds? And the words she uses is, perhaps she says it's a mystic, what was the exact word? So I have to remember that. A mystic connection in pain or something like that. Like this comes back to what you said, the persecution that both people face, etc. But Vera was not an Israeli Jewish woman. She was an American Jewish woman, but she was. I think her contribution to the knowledge of Kurds, the Kurdology. Oh, um, so that- yeah.
Yes.
So Vera's contribution is immense in that regard, although her name is not known, and her library is in a university in New York, still kept. So it's not only the Kurds of the Jews of Kurdistan that has this connection with the Kurdish people. It's deeper. It's about the Jewish people when they own their identity, when they connect their identity to the land. This immediately makes a bridge to Kurdistan, which is weird because when I was growing up, obviously, still in our village, one of the guys, his name is Irban. They translate it as Ibrahim to Turkish. So he is called Irvami Yoho. Is
Yeah.
the Irban the Jewish. Why? Because the land he later settled belonged to a Jewish family who immigrated to Israel. Do we have any negative memory? Not at all. Like
No.
we have none. But then at the same time, why would the Israelis feel for Kurdish people when they have their own big problem, not only in Israel but globally? What's your impression on that? Why do you think this is?
Well, personally, look, I mean, it started like, with the Israel first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. When Israel was established, I mean, Israel still is surrounded by enemies, and he wanted to seek to other ethnic minorities, because I mean, where we are and where they are, I mean, the region is predominantly Arabs, you know, and he reached out to the Kurds, and back in the 60s when the Kurdish revolution or rebellions in Iraqi Kurdistan, Israel was the only country who supported the rebellions. They supplied them with weapon, with the training, and with humanitarian aid as well. So goes back, a long time ago. I mean, their support is not only on humanitarian basis, but also as well more on a strategic basis, because they both in a region which is very, very hostile to people with distinctive identity, and this is one of the reasons why they bond together.
Okay, so talking of that, I when I look at our own people, the Kurdish people, the politics of Kurdish people, the political thinking, I consider, I think we are like toddlers. Toddler is older than 2, but still younger than 4. When the toddler has a need, reaches out to someone, help me.
Mm.
And if something doesn't go their way, the toddler's way, the toddler will go to a temper tantrum. The agency has not yet developed. We Kurds, we expect someone to come and save us. But obviously the Jewish, starting with Theodor Herzl, they developed an agency. They said, no, we're going to own our own destiny. They came together, they formed a group, and then they established Israel eventually. So when we look at our own people, we are still. Why did Israel not help us when the Arabs were attacking us? And this sentiment is not strong, but it's there and it's being fed. I hosted Yehuda Ben Youssef here. my personal observation, he was extremely sincere. He was working. He was really spending his days to protect the Kurds in Rojava. And in my opinion, in my observation, it's thanks to his efforts in Israel, in America, that is pushing for Save the Kurds Act in American Senate. And I'm sure more is being done behind the scenes that we don't see. But what would you say as a Kurd to Kurd? Is it the responsibility of Israel to come and save the Kurds? Or is it the Kurdish responsibility to save the Kurds?
You know, because you talked about Yehuda ben Yusuf, when I met him first time, it was about 3 years ago, and we became friends. And I remember exactly what he said to me at the beginning. He said to me, look, Suzan, we Jews, like you, we suffered the persecution and we scattered all over the world. But we came together. We came together because we want this suffering to end. And we worked very hard to establish their own state. He said, my advice to you, Kurds, you have to unite. You have to unite. You need to have one leadership, not 4, 5, 6 leadership. And as you just mentioned rightly, they had Herzl. And people, you know, they all gathered together because they had one goal, and that is to save themselves and end the prosecution. And he said, this is what you Kurds need to do. You need to unite. And I'm sorry, you know, our Kurds are unite. I mean, now I could see hopes. Like, you know what happened in Rojava? I haven't seen it before. For the first time, I could proudly and happily say, and with emotion, the first time I see Kurds from all part of Kurdistan, Kurds like you and me who lives in diaspora, they all came together and fought for Rojava. And this is beautiful. But it came, you know, it's late. I mean, it's okay, it's better than never, but why? Why didn't we do it, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago? Where were we? So, yeah, as you said, we shouldn't wait for others to save us.
Yes.
And the enemy is capturizing that Kurds are not united.
Yes.
And I get a lot of this criticism on our brother and sister in the occupied Kurdish region in Turkey. You know, I don't feel they have the same fire and the same passion. I see it in other part of Kurdistan. And I don't blame them, but because the Turkification and the Islamification of the Kurdish region has changed the mindset of many of Kurds in Turkey, and it's very sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. So I always say, if I wanted to speak to the French, I can. Like, let's say I'm Donald Trump, right? I take the phone. I'll talk to Macron. If I want to speak to the British, it's Stormer, right? If I want to speak to, I don't know, any nation, and if I want to speak to Israel, it's Benjamin Netanyahu. If I want to speak to the Kurds, who do I speak to? And that's a Kurdish problem. That's not a Jewish problem. That's not an American problem. That's not a British problem. That's a Kurdish problem. It's a problem that we have to solve because we don't have national political representation, and we are just all over in that sense. So I don't blame Israel, and I think the Israelis, the Jewish people in Israel are strongly supportive of the Kurds, but if I was an Israeli citizen, I would ask one thing from my statesman: be busy with Israel.
Of course, yes.
That's what they're doing, and that's not wrong. And that doesn't make them not friends. I think they are true Kurdish friends in that sense. But we have a lot of homework to do at home. So I want to switch to the diaspora. As I said at the beginning, when we look at the Jews in Greece, for example, they have been living in that land forever. They're natives of this country, and this applies to everywhere else. But in your case and in my case, you moved to Sweden when you were 4 years old. I came to Canada just 8 years ago. I think Kurdish diaspora is in their second, at best, third generation. The Jewish people, being natives of their land, they have all sorts of people among their ranks. That includes the rich, the smart, the successful, and like everyone else, they have all. but we are mostly laborers because we are new. We are still settling. Yes, we have some, like Dilan Yeşilgöz, a Kurdish woman, is going
Yes,
to be the defense minister of
of course.
Holland, right?
Yes, yes.
So we're coming, but we're not there yet. And then when it comes to this toddler analogy, our expectations are not logical sometimes. We are not yet mature. How do you think, in your opinion, when we have a very established, very strong global Jewish identity versus a developing Kurdish identity, how should the Jews see us, in your opinion, because we are close to them, and how should the Kurds think and see themselves and expect from the Jews globally,
Yeah,
not from Israel?
yeah. You see, with the Jewish community in diaspora, they mobilized. I don't know how to explain to you. Yes, they do live in diaspora, but Israel, Jerusalem doesn't leave their heart. So from early age, they teach their children about the importance, the historical importance of Israel, and why you should defend Israel, why you should, keep Jerusalem in your heart. And I mean, I'm not going to generalize that Kurds don't do that equally with their children, but not as the same as the Jewish family do. The Jewish family, their children are very very proud of being, I'm Jewish and I'm proud and I love Israel, and I don't see that much. At least when I was brought up, and I saw many Kurdish family, they don't emphasize that, encourage you to lobby for Kurdish cause, you know,
Mm.
and I think this is where our failure is. As you said, we a lot of the Kurdish who moved to like Germany, especially we have the biggest Kurdish community. They work in, they laborers. They work in, an unskilled job. But of course, things are changing. Things are changing, and but what I want to see is that Kurdish identity is being reinforced on the younger generation, the generation who lives in Europe, because it's very important. It's very important. You know, we who live in Europe or live in the Western world, we could, because we live in a democratical society, we could lobby for Kurdish cause in those countries we live in, and it's really, really, really important. I mean, I don't want to go sideline, but if you look at, the Palestinian movement, they are they are in everywhere, in every academia, in every parliament, lobbying and lobbying. And this is why you hear about Palestine 24 hours, 7 days a week, around the year, despite Palestinians of 5 millions, 5 millions. But you don't hear much about the Kurds because the Kurds are not doing, the hard work. The hard work. We have a duty to lobby for Kurds and Kurdistan from the Western world, and I don't see that. I really don't see that. And then there is a shyness. There is a shyness within the diaspora Kurdish community not reaching out to the Jewish community. I don't know why. Is it because of fear? What is it? What is it? And even if they do it under the table. I don't know what they are worried about. And that is something, we have to be honest about ourselves. Israel is not our enemy. I mean, Israel or the Jews have never killed any Kurds. They haven't occupied any part of Kurdistan. So my question to my Kurdish brothers and sisters: why are you scared? Why are you scared to be open about and forging relationship with the Jewish community in Europe? I mean, I have seen many Kurds who have good connection with Israelis and with Jewish diaspora, but they don't want to do it publicly. I don't know why. What are you afraid of? That the Muslim will hate you? Well, the Muslim hate you already.
They already hate us. No, it's true. It's a weird fear. Like, oh, there. What else do you think the Persians or the Azeris or the Turks or the Arabs are going to do? There's
Exactly.
no.
What
There's
more they
no.
have done? They have even used chemical gas and attack all of us. What more they could do? And why? When I see Kurds, and thank God they are a small minority who say, I don't like Israel. And I would ask him, why you don't like Israel? What has Israel or the Jews done to you? If anyone you shouldn't like, and I'm not going to generalize, it's the Arabs. It's the Arabs. So why are you telling me you hate Israel? And I know some of them, for religious reason, but why?
I think it's anti-Semitism. Like the Jewish conspiracy is a real thing, right? Like
Yeah.
people, like you look at the most educated intellectuals, even sometimes, not sometimes, journalists, the popular
Yep.
figures, they all fall into this trap. They think there's a satanic hand that controls the world. Actually,
I-
if that was true, you look at Israel and then the wars that they have to fight is a
Of
proof that
course.
that's not true.
Of
Uh,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's an escape from real thinking. You don't have to think anymore. You have to say, okay, someone did it, and this
Of
someone
course.
is evil, and who is this someone? Well, the people that you see everywhere. That's actually Hitler, right? That's exactly how we approach the matter. Uh, so what else can I ask? The Kurds, we are a growing diaspora, and you said we should reach out to the Jews. What do you think will happen if the Kurds, wherever they live in the world, reach to the Jewish organizations? What will they face?
I think they will be very much welcomed, and an alliance between those two community in the Western world, it will have a significant long-term benefit for both of our people. Because I mean, the Jewish community, as you said at the beginning, they're more established in the Western world than us, so they do have the connection, and us working together with them, it will actually benefit both of us. But people think short term. They think like, why Israel is not doing enough to help Rojava. I keep hearing this the whole time, and I say to these people, don't think short term, think long term. If we build an alliance, with the Jewish diaspora community, it will benefit both of us without any doubt. And I see it. It start building. It's been in motion for many, many, many years, but we need to do more. And I think Kurdish leadership, they need to be braver. Like I really have a lot of respect to Ilham Ahmed when she spoke on iNews 24, and she said she would like to reach out to the Israelis, because that is a very brave stand. Don't wait for the Jolani. Don't wait for the terrorists to give you the clear ahead. I mean, what makes me angry with the Arab world, they call us Zionist agent and Zionist dogs, and they are the one who actually kissing the shoes of Netanyahu. You know, and they call us all these names. Israel is not my enemy. Israel is not the enemy of the Kurds. If I want to have a relationship, or our people want to have a relationship with Israel, it doesn't mean we are dogs. No, we're not dogs. We are like any nation who want to seek and build long-term relationship with other nations. So
Yeah.
I need, the Kurdish leadership has to be stronger, has to be braver. You know, if you want to reach out to Israel, do like the Druze did. The Druze in Syria when they were massacred, they actually openly called for Israel for help. Our leadership in Rojava, they were attacked from every hole, from Arabic terrorists, foreign terrorists, Qatari terrorists, Turkish terrorists, and still they didn't have the courage to say, "I need help." I'm sure they did it under the table, but be brave and say it.
No, actually, what Yehuda said, and we see our common friend, what we see said actually, Rojava never reached out to Israel.
No,
No. So
no.
we cannot blame Israel for not coming to help us. Why would I help someone who I don't know if will welcome my help? Because I have already talked openly about my support to them, but they have not reached out to me. No, it comes back to us. It comes back to us. What we do and what we don't do.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of Kurdish people said that Israel didn't help the Kurds. Yes, okay, Israel maybe didn't help the Kurd of Rojava militarily, but they did help them on, morally. And people will say words are cheap, but it's not, because Israel did raise the case of the Rojava in the highest level. I mean, they did it in the United Nations. They condemned what Jolani did, with the Kurdish community, and that is huge because it will put more pressure. People say this is meaningless. No, it's not meaningless. We live in a time of social media. We live in a time of, word can have an impact. And Israel and Israeli organization, they have done so much to
Yeah.
raise the cause of Rojava a lot.
Yeah, and it's like I think the line of the rhetoric there, the demagogy, if you will, is, you know what, Israel sold you out, but what does that really mean? Like we can go to 1991 when Father Bush said uprise to the Shia and the
Yeah.
Kurds, and then dropped the ball, didn't help anyone. Yes, that is an example. You ask people to rise only to allow them to be slaughtered, so that it's like playing a chess game. But
Yeah, but I
if we
mean,
look at
eventually,
Israel never put any Kurdish life in danger
no.
anywhere, other than distant support and moral support and behind the scenes diplomatic support. I don't think there's any example of Israel misleading the Kurds to anywhere. I think Israel was very careful. There's just a support, but they never said they would be there to defend the Kurds in their difficult day. I don't think they can. First, we are
No,
not ready to receive such a help. Second, there's geographical distance. And third, maybe
cool.
most important, Israel has its own problems. Israel is in war with many countries all at the same time.
Yeah, but I think Israel helped us indirectly and helped all the ethnic minority in Syria, because before this terrorist Al Jolani came to power, the IDF, they targeted many military bases and they targeted weapon storages. Imagine if they didn't target these places. Those bombs will fall on us. They will fall on the Druze, they will fall on the Kurds, and they fall on the Alawite. You know, Al Jolani could have done much more massacres if he didn't see, if he wasn't cautious about Israel. And that cautious he saw before he came to power, that Israel is not playing games. Israel mean business. By attacking military bases inside Syria, including in Damascus, gave him a message like you don't have the free hand to do whatever you want to do. Yes, a lot of innocent people were killed in the Druze community, in the Alawite, and in the Kurds. But it could have been much worse, much, much, much worse.
Yeah. Okay. One last question. We have an official entity, which is South Kurdistan, northern Iraq, right?
Hmm.
And they have their own institutions. And one of the things Israel is two things I would say, the Jewish people in general, but also Israel is really good at this, science and technology.
Hmm.
And these are like you will say neutral fields, but at the same time these are the most important fields. Uh, as a Kurd to Kurd, right? Do you think that could be a partnership between South Kurdistan and Israel with that regard?
There is. I mean, there is partnership, but a lot of it is under the table. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not going to mention names,
I was
but like,
talking about universities and companies, by the way.
yeah, there is a lot, but they go under third name. So a lot of these companies,
Hmm.
I mean, I personally know a lot of Israeli, including, the journalist friend, Setha. They all been to Erbil, especially Erbil and Zaho. There is a lot of work, but a lot of it is done under the table. I mean, I have met Israeli politician, very high level, and they have said to me that we have met, but I'm not going to mention who, that they have met very important politician from Erbil in a third country, like in the Western world. And the reason why everything has to be done under the table, because what you said is the geographical vulnerability of where we are. I mean, imagine if it became knowledge that one of our politicians met, let's say, Benjamin Netanyahu. You will have half of the militias up in Erbil fighting and barking like dogs. Trust me, within 24 hours. So a lot of that work is going under the table, and 100% they are working together.
Okay.
And I hope one day it will be all in the open.
Okay, so if I were to ask you, I know we are not like, we don't have millions of viewers, and I don't know how many of our Jewish brothers and sisters will watch us, but if you were to speak to the Jewish diaspora as a Kurd, um, how would you want them to approach us? Because you said Kurds don't approach them. What can they do on their side?
I mean, the first thing I would say to them is please, there is a lot of support within the Kurdish community towards Israel and towards Jewish causes, but you need to be aware that the geographical vulnerability of Kurdistan is making it very hard for us to speak very openly. We are surrounded by by enemies of all four parts of Kurdistan. We don't have an IDF, a Kurdish IDF, to come and support us. We do, and I'm telling you, most Kurds, overwhelming majority of Kurds, they are very supportive of Israel. So you need to bear that in mind, because I come across Kurds, Jews, who would say to me, I don't hear Kurds talking a lot about, that they have brotherly relationship towards us. They do, but they're too scared to talk, you know. And I would say reach and start working with the Kurdish community in diaspora. You have both the same enemy, and these are the Islamists, because Kurdish identity and Jewish Israeli identity is still being denied across the Middle East. I mean, anti-Semitism is the number one hate in the Muslim and the region, followed by Kurdish phobia. So we have so many things in common. I mean, we're talking about 70 million Kurds, and this number is a huge, huge. If you think about long-term strategic.
Yeah.
So I would say, open your heart.
Yeah.
Reach
Here's
out.
how I would say. I was in Yemen twice, in 2011 and 2015. In 2011, I was covering both south and north of the country as a humanitarian. When I was in the north, every time I traveled, half of the villages were abandoned. And all these abandoned villages were Jewish villages. It was heartbreaking, because I know from my own interest in history, they were not immigrants in Yemen. They were Yemeni, just like the Arabs were Yemeni. They had to leave their own country because they could not live there anymore. That exact same thing is happening in Kurdistan. Kurdistan is receding, especially in Bakur, in Turkish-occupied Kurdistan. Kurdistan is receding. My part, entering 20th century, we were a majority. And now we are a minority, and it's almost only the elderly living in the villages. And the language is disappearing, identity is disappearing. So it's a very comparable, not exactly, but it's a very comparable history, what Jews went through, what we are going through. What I would want from the long-term thinking, what I would expect from the Jewish diaspora, from the Jewish people in the world, is we are in our infancy in developing our agency. We are a fractured society. Similar to Jews, we have all types of people among us. We have different religions, and we have different languages, and we never had in the modern world a political unity. There is no stereotype Kurdish. Our clothes are different, our food are different, our cultures are different because of this geographical. It's a big country, Kurdistan, right? But the thing is, there is a growing national sentiment among all the Kurds, and that's what we have seen. I thank you for saying that. It's the first time you saw it in January. That's exactly what I have experienced and observed this time in January. There is an unwritten Kurdish nationalist sentiment that is new. That's unlike the past. What we need is to grow. And Jewish people in the world, the ones with the means to do so, can help us by helping us learn to do business. We don't have business ethics yet. We have not yet developed it. They can help us slowly to mature us in doing honest business, in growing business, in learning how to do business. And the Jewish people can help us with that. This will help us keep our identity. The second thing, there are really bright Kurdish youth. But not in all cases, but either they don't have the right direction that comes from their parents. It's third generation in the best case. We're a pastoral society. We are not a modern society yet. We are becoming. But a hand to sometimes fund some of the students in the right direction. I think these two would be the greatest contribution, non-state support to the Kurds. In exchange, what you will get from us, the Kurds, is honestly, Kurdish people are naturally friendly for the Jews. And when I think of it, and I talk with our Kurdish people, one of the things that may happen, and if happens, will be welcomed by the Kurds is if there was a Kurdistan and there were many Jews living with us.
Of course, yeah, of course, of
Yeah,
course.
so this is what I would say in that sense, and I would really like that because the Jewish people can do that, and the Kurdistan is a strategical defense for Israel because then you will not be a small country surrounded by enemies. You will have a strong country that will also deal with the same enemies. Okay, this from me. I made it long, Suzan. It's
Thank you.
really nice to meet with you, and you also make your own podcasts. Do let us know, inform us, and your last words.
My last word, I hate Jolani, but I want to thank El Jolani. I thank him so much because thanks to him, he united Kurds in all four parts of Kurdistan and Kurdish diaspora to come all together and say enough to Arab Islamist fascism. So thank you, El Jolani, for that.
Yeah, thank you, Suzan.
Thank you.
Hope to talk with you again. I hope to
Thank you
meet
so
you in
much.
person.
Yes, please. Yeah. And send me the link. Thank you.
I will. Yeah. Have a good one. Bye.